Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We are on episode 4 of Vinland Saga. I'm so excited and really nervous because last episode did not end well. No, it ended with Askeladd showing up and Thors and these like 6 guys that have no clue how to battle are there on the ship with Leif, and Thorfinn's there. He's a 6-year-old kid, and Askeladd's got these mercenaries, and Floki has charged him to kill Thors. And the episode ended, old Bjorn was gonna fight Thors, was eating some mushrooms, we'll talk about that, but just it did not look like it was gonna go good. And so I don't get good vibes out of this episode because this entire series so far, Thors has made himself seem like the best father. Like, he started out being very non-sentimental towards Helga and like the idea of fatherhood, and then once he had a son, things just changed and he realized that he had something to live for and he didn't want to fight and kill anyone else anymore. And now Floki, who I feel feels betrayed by Thors in this decision, is just out on a personal grudge to kill him, and wants it kept secret, so he's having Askeladd do it instead. And Askeladd, everybody's been like, oh, I'm interested to see what you think of Askeladd. I feel like he's going to be one of these complex, I likened him to Han Solo in the last episode. I feel like he's going to be one of these complex characters that you just peel back the layers of, depending on how long he lives in this series. But he just has that vibe, that like, kind of a Kenny vibe that I'm going to like tear it apart and I'm going to enjoy it. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I don't get good vibes. I don't feel good for Thors. If you're going to, the OP shows Thorfinn being really resentful. So if you're going to get this kid to be resentful of something, well, having his father die in front of him as a child would be pretty significant, right? That seems to be a catalyst for a lot of shonen characters, is having their parent die in front of them. So why not do that here? Even though this is a seinen, it's not a shonen. But so I'm very curious to see what happens this episode and to see if any of the characters make it out alive. Other than Thorfinn, Leif may die, Thors may die, all these guys on the ship may die. Thorfinn, obviously, he's our protagonist, so he's not going to die. But maybe they all escape? I don't know. Going into this, I have no clue what's going to happen, and I'm quite frankly terrified. Someone in the comments on YouTube, as I'm recording this, episode 3 has come out on Patreon, episode 2 has come out on YouTube, and someone was saying that episodes 1 through 3, and Woosh and Sweebian was talking about this on the Discord as well, they were released in a chunk, episodes 1 through 3, and they're meant to be watched together. And I feel like, yeah, you could watch them together, but I feel like they also could stand alone. If they were released week to week, I would have been fine with that. That makes sense too. But I do have a couple comments before we start. Azialt, I was questioning in the last episode why are they beating on the drum when they're going into enemy territory? Azialt's like, well, you dumb white girl. Like, the reason being is that the drum beating is for rhythm and that they row to the rhythm. And there's a part of it that's like, I kind of remembered that, and then I was like, oh, I don't boat. So my knowledge of boating is awful. I'm easily seasick. I get easily seasick, so I usually have nothing to do with boats. And so I was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Wow, I felt dumb. So thank you. Thank you for that information. Edgar noted that this is a seinen, so it's kind of like, they mentioned Vagabond, which is by Inoue, and Berserk, which I would eventually love to get to, and Real. I love Real. It's one of my favorite sports anime. If you can call it a sports anime, it's more like a slice of life, psychological life quest than it is a sports anime. If you've not read Real, it is a seinen. It's amazing. It's by the author of Slam Dunk. I've cried reading it. It's so damn good. It's like one of the few series that has brought me to tears on multiple occasions. It's just so awesome. And it's not done yet. Like, in a way, still working on it. But I was like, as soon as he said that, I was like, oh yeah, awesome. And was pointing out that there's a lot of parallels with Vander from Arcane to Thors. Totally see that, along with the red flags, right? Along with the death flags. But I definitely see similarities with Vander and Thor. That, like, as father figures, they're kind of these tough and gruff father figures that are like super passionate about the ones they're trying to protect, and they want to avoid violence, but they come from very violent pasts. So I definitely see that connection there. Also, the voice actor for Askeladd is the same voice actor for Light's father in Death Note. And I was like, oh, interesting. The voice sounded familiar, but I was like, where's it from? And that makes sense. So thank you, Edgar, for that. Whoosh and Sweetbean was noting how Bjorn eating the... Bjorn, first of all, has the same voice actor as Kageyama from Twittering Birds Never Fly, Seizaru. And I was like, oh, that's where that deep voice comes from. Yes. Also voices Sato from Bleach. So a veteran voice actor. Nice. And also Mycroft Moriarty from Moriarty the Patriot. I was like, awesome, very cool. But that the Berserker mushrooms are a thing, and she sent me a link to the Berserker mushrooms, so I read a little bit about it. And so it's basically like a hallucinogenic. It's like they eat the mushrooms, and it was supposedly putting them into like a trance-like state. So they're basically just fighting on shrooms, basically just doping themselves up and fighting on shrooms during battle. Awesome. That's terrifying. So I like that this series is very much grounded in reality to a point. Like they're obviously the strength of these characters almost seems superhuman, but it's very grounded in reality. And then I was talking about how tall Thors must be, and Anita Meyer was pointing out that apparently Thorkel, the real life figure that Thorkill is based off of, it was 7'7", 7 7 inches. That's insanity that he was that tall. And Thors in episode 1 seemed kind of around the same height. So what? These giant men, just 7'7". It's like, oh, holy cow. It's a tall man. Indeed. But yeah, so thank you all for the comments there. That only took 6 minutes. We're doing good. But thank you all for commenting. I'm so excited / nervous to get into this episode and just see what happens. I wore my Edgar Allan Poe shirt because I was like, is it going to be a feast for crows? We don't know. So we shall see though, won't we? We're going to find out here and watch episode 4 of Vinland Saga. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Man. God. This is the best episode of the series. Yeah, we're only on episode 4, but this is my favorite so far. R.I.P. Thors. You knew he was gonna die. You've known it from episode 1. It's like the Mufasa thing from The Lion King. You just know this amazing father figure who has this impressionable young son. He's trying to teach him the ways of the world, and you just know he's gonna die. And the question is how and when. And for a split second, you thought maybe they'll get away. No, this show isn't nice like that at all. And God, what this episode did, it went in several different directions. I did not see it going in, and I kept thinking something was going to happen, and then it went the opposite way, and but yeah, y'all are right. Askeladd is such a character, and we'll talk about him. But Thors, the most honorable man, the true warrior, a man who could fight without a sword. And I was saying this in the reaction that this whole time, going back through this episode, is that there's a number of different reasons why he does not really draw the sword. He doesn't really draw the sword until he gets to Askeladd, until they do the duel. Like, not really. And then he really draws the sword to break the bridge, right? But the whole time he's fighting Bjorn and the others, he's not using... I want to get a shot of that thing of his face. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for a screen cap of Askeladd's face, looking all cheesy. Mm-hmm. He's a warrior worthy of the assassination, right? But the whole time he's fighting him, the thing about it is that one, he wants to prove to his son that you do not have to use swords and weapons to win a battle. Like, that's his son's 6 years old. He's like in the most impressionable state that he could possibly be in. And so he's like, you don't need a sword to fight. Clearly. And also you don't have to kill everyone to win a battle. Like, that was the thing. That was the two things out of this battle that Thors is like, I don't have to kill anybody and I don't have to use a sword. I mean, he does use it against Askeladd, but the main point is just getting those two things across to his son and the other people with him. And that's the thing. Like, he injures all those men, but when they said, oh, you'll lose more on your side, I'm like, they were all just injured. You didn't kill any of them. And he makes very precision moves. He does like one strike a person, like just does the one thing he needs to do. And And that doesn't come naturally. That comes from experience. It comes from him training, like everything he was taught. And I just love he just bats people away. But that's the thing of it. It's the funniest thing because, and I get why poor Thorfinn is so confused, because Thorfinn's like, but Dad, you're so strong and you are a warrior. How are you not killing the bad guys, right? And the thing of it is that Thors, to get as strong as he is and as talented as he is and as knowledgeable as he has to have been in battle for so long. That's how he got all this experience and got to the point where he's at. But once he's reached this point, he's decided he doesn't want to kill people anymore. And that's the crazy thing, is that Thorfinn, as a 6-year-old kid, can't understand that. He's just like, oh, well, you're strong. Why can't you win? Why can't you kill these people? Don't you get that they're the... When he was telling him during the fight with Askeladd, Thorfinn was like, yeah, kill him. And I was like, he's not going to kill him. I was like, he's not going to kill Askeladd. No, that's not his way. He's a true warrior. And that's kind of the thing of it. The theme that you don't have to... The respect that he garners through this match, through this battle, the respect he garners. Because here's the thing. If Askeladd was really... It speaks volumes for Thor's character, and it speaks volumes for Askeladd's character, that at any point, those archers were up at the top of the hill. They could have threatened his kid. They could have threatened Thorfinn. They could have shot arrows at Thorfinn if they wanted to. They could have shot arrows at Leif and the others and got Thors all by himself, which at this point they've seen Thors as basically a one-man army. It wouldn't have mattered if they were there or not. He's still that strong. But it speaks for Askeladd's character that, one, he didn't order the archers to shoot anybody during anything until the very end when they killed Thors, because that was the mission. That speaks volumes, one. But two, when the one archer is about to fire the arrow, the other guy's like, wait, we didn't get Askeladd's his signal. So the fact that his men respect and trust him completely, even when things seem dire, that speaks for his character too. So it's amazing that the sad thing is that Thorfinn is a child. He's a child, and he doesn't understand. Like, Thors is trying to teach him, like, you don't need to use a sword and kill people to win a battle. But this whole incident proved him wrong. And so for Thorfinn, all he sees is that his father died. And for Thorfinn, he's like, why did my dad die? He was going to win the match. And all it's taught Thorfinn is, one, it's taught Thorfinn, the 6-year-old kid, that we can't trust anybody. If you can't take their word, because Thors made a deal with Askeladd, and Askeladd didn't uphold it. So it didn't work. Well, he kind of upheld it. We'll get to that. But in Thorfinn's mind, as in a kid's mind, he's like, well, we can't trust anybody. They lied. They killed him, even when they said they wouldn't. And that Thor's whole message about violence not being necessary to win, in Thorfinn's mind, his dad lost because he lost his life. But in Thor's mind, that wasn't the point. Thor's was like, I'm trying to be a good person and do the morally correct thing and teach my son to follow that same path. And I feel like for Thorfinn, it's like, nope. Thorfinn's like, my dad died because of his ideals. I'm not going to do that. And it's like, ah! And this 6-year-old kid with this maniac face, it's like, oh, buddy, yeah, Getting lots of vibes from other shows, let me tell you. We'll save that for the end. I do want to say one thing, but we'll save it for the end. But yeah, it's so impressive watching the animation and just seeing how in control Thors is during this entire battle. And the thing of it is, Thors knew, I think by the time he started battling Askeladd, and by the time he figured out Floki was involved, he was like, I'm gonna die. He's like, yeah. I think he always suspected it. I think he knew him going into the battle and going this way, he was going to die regardless. But I feel like once he figured out Floki was involved, he's like, oh, I am dying. I'm not getting out of here alive. They've hired him. They've hired these men to kill me. That's what this is. He figured it all out, right? So Bjorn, as I'm rewatching this, Bjorn just eating the berserker mushroom, and he name drops it and just going crazy, and just to the point where he's in a state where he can use all this strength, but he has no clue what he's doing. He's just like ramming his head into the boat, like he's just throwing his own men left and right. He went berserk. He just went crazy and was just knocking around everything. And he's a big man. So in battle, if he eats this mushroom and just runs out at the enemy, as long as you're on his side and you steer clear, you'll be fine. He'll just go against the enemy. And Thors knows what he's done and what he's ate. And so for Thors, who's just as strong as Bjorn, he just has to like outmaneuver him and like ditch him into the water. And it seems like a lot of these guys either can't swim or can't swim well, because the one guy like grabbed a hold of the oar when it like fell in. But yeah, but the fact that Thors could just punch him in the face, and he never loses his cool. He's calm and collected. I feel like, because a lot of people have said that this is a long-running series, and the first season is like the prologue of everything. It's like just the beginning. Everybody's like, oh, the first season's just like the start of the story. A lot of people are comparing it to Yona of the Dawn, which is awesome. I'm excited by that. But I feel like long-term end game, this series is going to focus on themes of when you do and don't use violence, and the choice that you make and the consequences of those choices, but that you make. Again, it's tying to a series. I mean, it's tying to Attack on Titan, the idea of you don't regret your decisions, right? You make a decision you don't regret. And it's tied to yourself, your perspective, your emotions, all of these things. So, okay, we'll talk about Askeladd. He says, I want these kids alive. If they get hurt, they won't sell for a high price, so be careful. He's such an interesting character, Askeladd is. He's so interesting because I respect him. I do. As a character, I respect him. I don't know if I like him yet. I'm so like, he has a big question mark above his head because we don't know much. He's very private. We get little glimpses into his inner monologue, especially when he found out that none of his men had actually died. We'll talk about that at the end of the episode, but he's a very curious character because he's very hard to read, but you have to respect him because he's just it's the weirdest thing. He's the most ingenuine person. And I say that because he says things that are flippant, and he'll be like, I'm just joking, ha ha ha. And he seems like he puts on this facade, but there's this veneer underneath it that is serious, and that he takes people seriously, right? He takes people seriously. He does not underestimate people, and he likes to figure people out, and he doesn't underestimate them. And he sits there and tries to read people. It's very interesting. His character is fascinating. But I like that he tells these men, he's like, don't kill any of them. And that kind of makes sense too. They weren't hired to kill anybody but Thors. So Floki said, he's like, the ship and the cargo are all yours. We just want Thors dead. So Askeladd's a businessman. He's a pirate, but he's a businessman. He's a mercenary pirate that's running a business. He's like, I've got men to feed. I've got men that respect me. I've got to pull rank here and be a leader. He's like, we got to make sure to make ends meet. So we got to do this assassination job just exactly as we were told. So I get why he was like, okay, don't kill anybody. We just want to kill Thors. It's a nice setup early on in the episode because Thors is worried that the people on the boat with him, his son and the other men in Leaf, he's worried that they will be targeted and that they will be killed. And he's like, I don't want that. So it's funny because on the one hand, Thors is fighting to keep all these people safe, and that's why he does the duel. And then on the other side of things, Askeladd's not going to kill them because he wants to sell them and get the most profit. So it's funny that the whole time, throughout the entire battle, everyone on the ship with Thors was safe. Nobody was going to be threatened until Bjorn thought that Askeladd's life was in danger and threatened Thorfinn. But that was at the very end. Like, up this entire battle, the stakes, really, it was all on Thors. It was all on him. The stakes, they weren't going to kill these people. They were going to sell them. So there wasn't any risk there from the start. It was really just, when is Thors going to die, and is he going to die here? So that's interesting. That's very interesting. And then they put the two bridges down. And I love that that whole thing where Thors throws Bjorn through the one bridge, and then he takes out his sword for the first time to chop the other bridge. That's the only 2 times he uses his sword against anybody, with the exception of Askeladd during their duel. And Askeladd's like, oh, really? Bjorn, he didn't make it? He got thrown aside? Ah. And then they're all like, oh, even Askeladd's like, this guy can jump. And Thorfinn seeing his father, like Thorfinn having this look of wonder on his face as he watches his father and seeing him flying through the air like a superhero. It's like Superman. This is like the death of Superman, right? It's because he's just seems superhuman. And him landing at everything, and he draws his sword to break the bridge. Mm-hmm. And the other guys are, and they all back up. They're like, ah. And he does the hair flip. He does the hair toss. I was like, wait. Yeah, does he have the side ponytail of death? Did Thors have the side ponytail of death? Damn it. I was talking to my best friend the other day about this. I was like, oh yeah. I was like, in anime, it's usually a mom that has the side ponytail of death. And that if they have a side ponytail, it's like a hairstyle. And it means they're going to die. And my friend, who does not watch anime at all, was like, well, doesn't that ruin the surprise if you know they're going to die? And I was like, we're not going to talk about it. Should have known he had the side ponytail of death. So Helga does not have the side ponytail of death. She does not have the side mom ponytail. So maybe she'll live, right? But Thor's had the ponytail all along. It's right there in front of us. And he's like, you've lost half of your forces. And I love that Thorfinn, if you look at him, he's so excited. He's like, yeah, my dad's going to kill him. He's going to win the battle. And he's like, you should just leave. Leave now and I won't take your life. And I love that Askeladd is just like, you! Like, he has just the most expressive face. Like, he's so expressive. He's like, really? You're not going to kill us, huh? Oh my gosh. And he's just like, and then that's, we go into the intro from there. Oh my God. Okay. So yeah, it's amazing. They're like starting to pull him up. And I love that Askeladd always has that smirk, that shitting smirk, like this, okay. But here's the thing. Askeladd is a Viking. He has a job to do. He's a mercenary. So he's like, yeah, that's great that you want to get out, but like, I gotta do my job. And I gotta lead these men. So that's the thing, no hard feelings. Like with Askeladd, I think even in the end, like he respects Thor so much by the end of this. He's like, damn, you could lead an army. It just seems like Askeladd saying, what a waste. He's like, just by the end of it going, I was paid off by some asshole, some slimy guy with a grudge to kill you, and you could have led our people to victory. You could have led our people, but I've got to do this now because that's what I've been charged to do. But what a waste. Like, that's just his attitude about it. And it's so fascinating. And I want to know more about Askeladd. I don't want spoilers, but I want to know more. I'm like, damn. And he's like, be gone, pirates. You cannot defeat me. And yeah, the guy pulls back the arrow and he's like, stop. We didn't get the signal. Don't shoot until Askeladd gives the signal. Because their plans were to all shoot him at once. He's like, we've got the high ground. What are they stalling for? So that's the thing. Their whole plan the entire time, the archers, the whole plan was to fire all of their arrows at Thors to just kill him. That was it the whole time. And he's like, what is Askeladd waiting for? Why aren't we just doing this? Just do it and take the ship. But Askeladd is intrigued. He's intrigued by Thors and he respects him. And he's like, I'm going to give this guy my time. Askeladd, here's the thing. He always, I feel, knew he had obviously the high ground with the archers. And if things got too dire, he could always call them to kill Thors. So I feel like Askeladd doesn't feel like he's in any place of vulnerability until he's actually fighting Thors. And so he just wants to hear him out of respect. And that's interesting. And then we cut down to poor Leif. And Leif's like, what a crazy man. He's not afraid to take on 2 whole warships alone. And then I like that the other guys are like, well, let's help him. And Leif's like, no, we're not getting involved. He's like, we're amateurs. All that there is on these ships are kids and amateurs. So that's interesting that Leif's like, no. He's like, the archers are waiting up on the cliff. He's like, no, he's the one who knows how to handle this. Leif's like, let Thors deal with this. If we get involved, we're screwed. Let's not do anything rash. Oh. And Leif's like, don't you understand? Except for Thors, we're all outmatched. All we can do is let him handle it. Yeah. At this point, there's a whole worship of men, and it's really down to Thors. And I love that we get their internal monologue. Thors is like, they're not going to leave just because I threatened them. And the archers aren't firing yet. There's 30 men into the front. And I love this. I love this. Because he's like, I'm sure that he's thinking of the archers. And when he says, I know I could kill that many myself. Like, he's like, this whole worship in front of me, I could kill all of them if I wanted to. And he's like, if I had to, I could do it. But our ships are close. If they jumped over, it'd be a free-for-all. And you just see Thorfinn there with the little knife ready. And he's thinking of his son. And looks over at him. Yeah. It'd be fine if I was alone. But... And he looks at all of them. Yeah, so Thors is like, I can't fight them all on my own because it'll be just cause a melee and then my son could get caught in the crossfire. He's like, I can't do that. He's like, I need to find the leader and challenge him and start a duel and make him leave. Like that. Oh God. It's so good. It's so good. And that's when he notices Askeladd and points him out. He's like, you there, the one at the center of the ship with your arms crossed, looking leaderly. Oh my God. In the name of Odin the Almighty, I challenge you to a duel. And Askeladd's like, oh, I didn't want to do that. he just has this look on his face like, oh, ew, no. He does not seem like a duel man. He's, again, the Han Solo. He's the con artist. He's the mercenary. He's like, a formal duel? Ew. Like, that look on his face is just like, I don't want to fight you. If you win, you can do whatever you want. If I win, you must withdraw all at once. And if you refuse, then you're going to lose 3 times as many men to capture a mere 12 slaves. And I like that Askeladd's like, He thinks about it. He's like, well... Because it seems like both Askeladd and Thors are very reasonable men. They're both very thinking battlemen. They don't just rush into battle blindly. They think things through. And so Askeladd's like, okay, so what have I got to lose from this duel? He's like, we're going to shoot him anyway. So we've got the high ground. We have the advantage here. He's like, I don't have to uphold this duel at all. I'm a mercenary. I don't have to uphold this duel and keep my word. No. He's like, but if I say no, he's like, if I say yes, I could get injured by this guy who's clearly capable of hurting people. So there's that. But if I refuse and he comes over and starts attacking my men, it's going to cause more problems than good. So I feel like he's weighing his options and choosing what's safer for him. And he sees that Bjorn is out. He sees Bjorn is out of commission. He's like, okay, that's a problem. I feel like if Bjorn had been in commission and capable of moving, he wouldn't have done the duel. He would have just killed him there and been done with it. But the fact that Bjorn is unconscious, he's like, okay, there's a chance this could go south. So that's when he does, can I ask you something? How do you know I'm the leader? And I like that Thors is like, well, because I can smell it. He's like, aha! Okay, impressive. So it's like, just, you can smell that leader, that bloodlust, that leadership. He's like, I will accept your duel. Fine. He's like, I feel the same. It's like, you just have that atmosphere. Thors is like, I just know that you're the leader. You just seem like it. And he's like, and he says, Askeladd, son of Olaf. So I want to look back here. Okay, Olaf, there was an Olaf that was the king of Norway, right? There was an Olaf that was the king of Norway doing all these raids, and then Sven took over from him, the king of Denmark. So is Askeladd, is he related to Olaf, the former king? Or is Olaf just like, is Olaf kind of like Thors and Thorfinn and Thorkel, and it's just a common name? But Askeladd, the son of Olaf, I'm like, is he the former king's son? Or just a random Olaf that's not related to the king? That's going to be interesting to find out. If he is the king's son and he became a mercenary and just kind of like retreated, because I guess he wouldn't have to worry about upholding the family bloodline, because if the Sven guy is now the king, then there's no need for that. So that is curious. Now that Thorfinn is on the ship with them, because he snuck away on the ship, of course he did. I wonder if that's going to be, because Thors kind of just seems like he feels like royalty. He feels like a king, right? Battling, but he married the general's daughter, so it's kind of pseudo royalty in a way, sort of like just upper nobility, I guess. So I feel like Askeladd and Thorfinn, their paths may be similar-ish, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll see as the series goes on. But he's like staying near the ship's bow. And they all back up. Like Thorfinn the whole time just holding that little knife, right? This duel was awesome. I loved this. This was so tense. Because you just know Askeladd being... From the last couple episodes, you just know that he is capable, this man. He's going to give Thors a run for his money, right? And I love that it's a thinking duel. It wasn't just brute strength. It was wit and a thinking man's game. He's like, do the whole thing with the mast and making it come down and trying to like get him to where he was at a disadvantage so he could do a surprise attack, and then realizing that that wasn't going to work anymore, and them chipping away at their swords to try to break them first. Like, it was not a battle of strength, it was a battle of wit. And then I think that if Bjorn had just stayed unconscious, then I don't know, but they were going to kill him anyway. That's the thing. It was going to happen one way or another. And the moment that he recalls Floki in the village, he's like, I see what this is. He's like, did Floki do this? And he's like, you're quick. I like smart men. Yep, he figured it all out. And then, of course, Thorfinn speaks up. He's like, my father isn't a bad man like you. He's like, baka, baka. It's like, my father's strong. Die, you pirate. You idiot, you idiot. Your armor looks weird. Ah! And then Askeladd's like, is that your son? So here's the thing. He's going to keep Thorfinn alive because he's Thor's kid. Because he's like, I respected your dad. Your dad clearly gave his life to keep you safe. So if you can prove your worth, boy, I'll keep you safe. I picture that. I picture Askeladd being like, because Askeladd seems like, even though he's a con man, even though he goes back on his word and he doesn't commit to things, at his core, he seems like he has this common, like, warrior's principle, where he's like, okay, fine, I'll respect certain things. And I feel like he's going to respect the fact that Thorfinn is Thor's son and be like, I respected your dad. He was a true warrior. I want him to explain what the true warrior is to Thorfinn, but I don't think that's going to come anytime soon. No. Even if Askeladd disagrees with it, right? And then he's like, do you have this question? He says, do you have a wife and children? And I like that there's a little tiny animation where where Askeladd's eyebrows, he goes, like he does that kind of motion. He says, no, he doesn't have a wife and children. And so Thors is like, I see. And at the time, during the reaction, I was thinking, okay, Thors is realizing that he's like, then you don't know what it's like to lose someone you love. So at that moment, I was like, well, Thors is going to lose because Askeladd doesn't have anybody that he, is there to protect. But I also think when he says, let's begin, now looking back on it, it's like, no, he asked him that being like, do you have anybody that's going to miss you if I kill you? Is what he's referring to. He's like, do you have a wife and children that if I kill you, they're going to miss you? And when Askeladd's like, no, I don't. He's like, okay, I can fight you now with the sword because if I kill you, you don't have a wife and kids that are going to miss you. It's like, oh, it's interesting. And then Askeladd's like, okay. And I love it. I love how they get close. And Askeladd's trying to figure out, he's like, why is he advancing so quickly? He does the thing with the mast. And that shot, that animation of him going under it, and he sliced him, but it was shallow. He dodged at the last second, and it was too shallow. Damn. That's, this battle's so good. And he kicked and missed, and he did the handspring. Oh, man. It's great. And I love that the men start to get worried the longer the fight goes on. Because, yeah, even in this moment, like, Askeladd's breathing heavy. He's like, I dodged under that mast at the last second without getting crushed to do my special sneak attack, and it failed. And then I had to do a backflip to get away from him. Like, he's already panting and sweating, and it's 10 seconds into this. Oh. And then Thors is, like, not even phased. He's like, my moment of opportunity. A surprise attack won't work on him anymore. Coming all this way was worth it. Yeah, he's an incredible man. Like Askeladd's like, I've been dealing with like these peons and doing these like run of the mill random assassins that haven't been worth their salt. And then this man comes along that is someone worthy of a challenge, someone who's incredible. Like he instantly gets Askeladd's respect. It's like, oh. And Leif is like, oh my God. And Thor's looking at the blood, saying, you're strong. And he's like, so I'm not going to be able to hold back, so forgive me. I can't go easy on you, or I'll die. And Askeladd's like, well, I'm happy to hear that. You're not going to go easy on me. And then, yeah, and then they just parry back and forth. It's amazing. It's great. And he baits him. He basically baited him to destroy the sword. Like, it's wonderful. This whole battle. But then Thorfinn's like, Father, kill him. Like, because that's all in the 6-year-old kid's mind. He just knows that Askeladd is the bad guy, and they've been training. Thorfinn's been raised up with these kids, these Viking kids, who are all like, we kill the bad guys. And so for Thorfinn, that's all he knows. And so that's what he says to do. And Thors is like, no, there's more to it than that, son. He's like, you don't have any enemies. Your enemy's just yourself. Like, you just live in this world. You're not born with enemies. It's like, But he tries to tell the 6-year-old kid, but then everything goes south, and this is what he's left with. Like, it's sad, because the sad part is that Thor's messages all will get shoved to the wayside because of his death. It's fascinating. But this moment here where Askeladd destroys the sword and thinks that he's won, he's like, since I know his target, I can protect the arc of his sword. And then this is it, a wide swing. And Thors just breaks the arm. And breaks the arm that Askeladd ends up smacking Ari with. It's like, oh my God. And Thors could have killed him. He could have killed him. He was waiting for me to get careless and swing wide. He was planning me to snap his sword, and everything went according to his plan. Unbelievable. I can't believe I fell for it. And then, yeah, Thorfinn's like, you did it. You're amazing. And I get why he didn't kill him immediately. One, because he's like, look, we made a duel, we made a bet, now leave. I've spared your life. It's because Askeladd's like, kill me. And he's like, no. Because one, I feel like it's on multiple levels. There's a level where Thors realizes that the reason why the archers haven't shot them yet is because Askeladd hasn't given them a signal, because he's a leader. So he's like, if I kill you now, then they're probably going to fire their arrows at us, and maybe they're going to fire them just at me, but they might also fire them at my son and all the other people on the ship. So he's like, I can't have that happen. So he's like, no, Askeladd, make your men leave like you said you would, and leave us alone. So that makes sense. But then two, he's like, no, Thors is a man of his word. And he's like, I told you, if I win, you leave. And Thors is also not going to kill him because he just doesn't believe in taking his life. Because he hasn't taken the life of anybody on the either warship. Oh my God. He's like, I don't need to kill you. Say you surrender, and that's enough for me. He's like, I'm their leader. And Askeladd's like, I'm their leader. I can't just surrender. Like, I can't say that in front of my men. My men respect me, and I lead them into battle. He's like, I can't surrender. That's not going to happen. No. And Thors is like, look. And I like that Thorfinn just has this look on his face like, why aren't you killing him? And Askeladd's like, what are you going to make me do? He's like, I'm not going to surrender. He's like, what's wrong? Kill me. If you don't kill me, this duel will never end. Mm-hmm. Ah, God, I love it. And so then they all like, and Bjorn wakes up and is like, what's going on? And if Bjorn hadn't woke up, then we wouldn't have had a problem. But he asks them to keep that. He's like, withdraw your troops at once. And I like Askeladd's like, no, you really are strong. It's like, you could lead a whole army. Yeah. And Thors is like, what are you getting at? He's like, why? Why did you stay in Iceland for 15 years even though you're such a strong warrior? Don't you think you're wasting your skills? It's such a waste. He's like, no. And Askeladd, I feel like Askeladd doesn't understand why he said no. He's like, what's your deal? Like, he doesn't have a wife and kids. He doesn't understand. He doesn't have that sense of wanting to keep them safe. He's trying to figure Thors out. And Thor's like, I must rely on a sword like this because I'm not yet a master. Ah, a true warrior doesn't need a sword. I love that line. I love it. A true warrior does not need a sword. He's like, I have to rely on this because I'm not yet a master. I'm not yet ready. It's so good because he's like, I should have been able to make you all stop with my words and my bare hands and not had to use a weapon against you. Just shows how much I've got left to go. I love that. I love Thors being like, look, this is just, if you just leave, nobody has to die. But like that respect, that line. And Thorfinn's like, oh. And Thorfinn later is like, what do you mean you don't need a sword to be a warrior? He's like, what does that mean? And Thorfinn just doesn't get it. He can't see that because he's a kid. But trying to set an example for his son up to the very end. And Askeladd just looking at him like, huh. Thanks, Thors, you lead my men. Won't you become our leader? I like that for a minute. Thors is like, what? And Leif's like, what? And all the other men are like, excuse me? And then he laughs and is like, I'm just joking. That's what Askeladd's like, you can't read him fully. He's like, I'm just kidding. Like he thinks and then he's like, joking. Just kidding. Hey. Why isn't anyone laughing? I was joking. But there's a little gleam in his eye that I'm like, was he? I feel like he was joking because he's like, no, he knew Thors was not going to lead his people, one. But two, he's like, you could. He's like, you could be a leader. It's like, we're just wasting everything, aren't we? Oh, like he conceded defeat, right? Ugh. And then Bjorn's like, we have no time for this lollygagging. And he jumps over to grab Thorfinn. Ugh. Saying he'll slice his head off. I hate it. And Thors is like, this is not part of our deal. This is not good. And then Askeladd's like, I guess just kill the kid. And Thor's like, we had an agreement. And he's like, I'm a pirate. And that smirk. That laugh too. He just laughs. He's like, you're such a good man. Do you think we're going to follow the rules of the duel? He's like, who'd you think we were? He's like, we're mercenaries. Like, no, I was just playing around with you. I wanted to find out how good the famous Troll of Jom was. I had a good time. I love Thors is like, well, then I'm going to kill you. Like, it's just, they're testing each other, right? It's so funny because Askeladd makes himself so hard to read because in that moment, he's like, oh, I'm just joking. It's fine. I don't want you to be our leader, but you could be. He's like, don't you see what you're wasting? Don't you see what a waste this all is? And he's also being like, I've come here to kill you. So see how horrible this is? Oh. And then, yeah, Thors won't let him go. He's like, I love that there's the symbolism of the mast in between Bjorn and Thorfinn and between Askeladd and Thors. I love that little symbolism, the divide there. One's in Thors is clearly in command of the situation and Bjorn is command of his situation. It's like, ugh. He says, you broke the rules of the duel. I won this match. And he's like, who cares? I'm after your head. And then he says, I know. That's because yeah, Askeladd's like, look, I don't care about this duel. It was never about this duel. I just wanted to test you and see if you were worthy of me killing you. If you were really, why Floki went against his people to get you assassinated. He's like, I wanted to see if it was worth it. And it was, because you're an amazing person. And the moment that Thor says, I know, it's like, he's gonna die. Just, And then, yeah, he throws the sword into the water. And Thorfinn doesn't understand why he did this. He's like, why did he cast his sword away? But Thorfinn's a kid. He also does not understand the politics of all of this, and that he doesn't understand that Floki hired Askeladd as an assassin. Thor's figured it out. He's like, you guys have come here to kill me. And that's the thing. It kind of proves in that point, it proves in that moment that Thors is like, well, damn it. The duel didn't matter. He's like, you guys were just going to kill me. I was your target this whole time. You were just going to kill me. You didn't care about the rest of it. I think Thors, it all catches up with him and he realizes, oh, these people weren't in danger at the start. It was just me. And I couldn't figure that out. He's like, fine, you want me? Come and take me. He's like, I'm not going to fight you anymore. He's like, he knows what the situation is. And God, the animation on Askeladd is so freaking good. There's so many moments where he's just like narrows his eyes. And he's like he's trying to get a read on Thors and be like, are you the real deal? Are you really the real deal? And he is. And the sword, he's like, I accept. And he's like, the winner of this duel is you. And that's the signal. And they all fired their arrows at him. God. It's like oh God, the animation of the arrows hitting him. Oh. Because at that moment, Askeladd's like, you get it. You get why we're here. You get what the price is. You get that you're not making it out of here alive. And I think Thors at that moment realized that the archers weren't going to attack the others too. And he's like, okay. Oh, he's like, my son doesn't need to needlessly die because you guys just came for me. Oh my God. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking seeing Thorfinn watch his dad die and just the shot of all the arrows in him. That shot of him looking down with the sunlight over him and all the arrows. Oh my God, that image is so good. Like, I can just imagine this in the manga. Oh. But he's just like my dad. And I love that when he turns, like his eyes are already, like there's one in his neck. There's an arrow in his neck. Like he ain't walking away from any of that. And his eyes are already shadowed like he's about to die. He's like, I won this duel. Keep the promise you made as a warrior. He's like, I know. In the name of my ancestor Artorius, I shall withdraw my troops at once. And he did. And he left. He left. So it's like, yeah, it's funny that even for all the Askeladd, because Askeladd was trying to just figure Thors out and test him this entire time, to test him, to see what kind of person he was. And at the end of the day, these two men are both warriors who respected each other and their word. And he's like, look, he's like, Thors, I was hired to kill you. It's my duty. I gave this man my word that I'd kill you. I can't go back on it. He's like, sorry, but you won the duel, so I'll do what you say and I'll leave them alone. And Thorfinn just had to climb aboard the ship. Just had to get aboard. Oh. Leif. And then that's when he says, Leif, I have a favor to ask you. And at this point, Leif is all of us. Leif is just crying. He's all of us at this point. It's like, oh my God. He's like, bring my head to Sigvaldi, the leader of Jom's Vikings. If he suspects I disappeared to avoid his summons, then the village will be punished. And Leif's like, God, you're a crazy man. Yeah, it's to the very end, even as he's dying, he's like, look, I gotta save the village and keep them safe, so just take my head to the Jom's Vikings so they know what happened. But they all got in the boat of Leif's because that was the only way they could row back. They weren't strong enough to row the other boat. And he said, you bastard, I'll give you my life just like you wanted. Let that child go right now. But apparently he didn't take the knife with him because he got the knife back. God, this was hard. Like seeing this kid. The voice actor for Thorfinn, the voice actor or voice actress for Thorfinn did such an amazing job in this episode. Like from crying to screaming to like rage, from going from like grief to rage. Like, because it's like the 5 stages of grief, like the denial that his father died, and then anger, and then bargaining's left, acceptance. We're just like, we've not gotten to that. We're still in anger and denial, but oh my God, like just the voice actor for Thorfinn, Yudo Umemura, oh, so good, so good. But yeah, and then Thor's just like stroking his head, like back from episode 1. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Nope. And then him saying, oh, I'm glad. For now. Oh. And so, yeah, because Askeladd's like, this man. Mm-mm. And I love that he's like, and Ari comes over him and he's like, look, don't. Like, it doesn't even like phase him. He's like, no, he just punches him to the ground, doesn't even try. And I love this line. And it was with the arm that was broken. Oh. And he's like, you damn kid. You should start valuing your life. You should be grateful to Thors. I love this line. He was a man who was worth more than 100 bratty kids like you. He's like, I didn't want to kill this man, but I was assigned to, but it's such a waste. And that shot of him just looking up, standing up with all the arrows in him. Oh, as Thorfinn's like at his feet. Damn. And then we get in the hull of the ship. So Thorfinn like in the ship. My father was so strong. And he's like, why did he let go of his sword? And he doesn't understand. He's like, how can he say a warrior doesn't need a sword? That can't be true. It's just like back to the conversation they had back at the cottage. He's like, what? It can't be true. You need a sword. You need weapons. And Thor's like, no. He's so young and impressionable. He just doesn't get it. He doesn't get the full perspective of what's going on and the circumstance of everything. He's just a kid. He doesn't know any different. He's like, why? Why did father? And then just saying like he doesn't understand. And I just like the animation of him just like gripping his arm and everything. He lost a father. Yeah, he's like, this man lost. Why was my father the one who died when that man lost? Why is he the one who's still alive? Oh. And that look where he says, damn it all. Oh my God, that look. Oh. It's just, yeah. He's like, my dad's not the one that lost, so why is he dead? Oh. And he's just so full of rage, this kid. Because he loved his dad so much. And so, yeah, he's like, I'm surprised they abandoned these nice ships. And it must have been a big decision. And they're like, no, they can't move the ship without Thors. And so they see the oar. And they're like, Thors could row as hard as 5 men. And they're like, really? So yeah, that's why they all got on Leaf's ship, because they couldn't make it back with the big warship. And they're like, well, things all worked out. I was wanting to get a 3rd ship. And that's when he notices Thorfinn. So then we cut to Askeladd. And Askeladd has his little flask there and his knife, but he doesn't seem like he's celebrating. He's just all bundled up in his poncho there, in his blanket. But he's thinking back to that battle. And when he met up with his men, he's thinking, 28 men injured. How many died? None, not even one, impossible. And he does the eyebrow thing again where he's like, you mean to tell me this man didn't kill any of my men? This man among men's? Why'd I have to kill him? I hate it. I'm like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh, Askeladd, we got this kid aboard the other ship. Come to the stern. He's like, shut up. And then, yeah. Oh, and that look, that is a kid that's like, that's it. He snapped. Our boy. That's like Thorfinn had this, like the innocence is gone. Like any innocence that Thorfinn had, it's done. Like seeing his father die and realizing that the world is cruel. Because he's like, my dad won the duel. He was a man of honor. He kept his word. He didn't use his sword. He killed no one, and he died. He had these high principles, and he died on them. Mm-hmm. And the thing of it is, he doesn't know about Floki. He doesn't know about the circumstance or any of this. He just knows that his father had these ideals, and he died upon them. And Thorfinn does not seem like the type of person, unlike his father, who wants to die on those same principles. And I feel like that's going to be the big thread of this story, is Thorfinn resisting everything his father was trying to tell him and saying, no, I'm not going to go that route. And I feel like along the way, this entire story is going to be about Thorfinn figuring out what his father meant and what the whole point of it was. That's why I feel like that's how I feel this story is going to go. That's going to be the big theme, is that Thorfinn is going to go on this journey to figure out what exactly his father was referring to and what he was talking about and why he chose to drop the sword in the water. But that look, yeah, and him just screaming and he has the blade, yep. And he's like, it's Thor's kid. He was hiding on the ship. And they're like, he's got a dagger. And they're all laughing except Askeladd. Everyone's laughing at Thorfinn except Askeladd. Because Askeladd's like, no, I killed your dad. And you're a kid and you don't understand. And he's like, how dare you? Oh, he's like, how dare you kill father? He's like, I'm going to kill you. And just screams it no matter what. Oh, and they're all kind of like, man, this kid's got a lot of rage built up for 6 years old. Seems like a problem. Whew. And they're all like kind of stunned. They're like, he's just a kid, but that look in his eyes. Mm-hmm. Oh. And they're like, what do we do? Should we throw him overboard? And Askeladd's like, nah. He says he'll die anyway. He says, leave him. He'll die soon anyway. So I'm guessing they're saying, like, if they don't feed him, maybe either one, if they don't feed him, he's going to die, or two, if they try to sell him and he acts up, they're going to kill him anyway. So, and they just left him on the ship all alone. Just crying. Oh, out on the open ocean. Oh, so holy crap. Oh my God. Oh my God. So yeah, awesome. So Thorfinn's with Thors now and Bjorn, just kind of like the OP. I'm going to guess that Askeladd's going to try to keep him around because he's Thor's kid and he respected Thors and knew that he wanted to save his son. That's my prediction. My big questions are Leif's going to have to take the body of Thors to the Vikings to show that he did die. To show that. And then he's going to have to go home and explain to Helga and Ylva that their father husband's dead and that their brother is gone. So lots of things. I'm curious if we're going to get the time skip next episode, or if I feel like maybe we're going to round out everything that's going to happen post this episode, the aftermath in the next episode, and then maybe do something. I don't know if the OP time skip's going to happen next episode or the one after it, but this episode, it's my favorite so far, but holy cow. So yeah, R.I.P. Thors. I'm glad Leif didn't die. I was afraid Leif was going to die too. I was really worried about Leif. I was afraid he was going to die and I was going to feel really, really sad. So I'm glad that was not the case. But, oh man, I'm so curious to know your thoughts down below. This episode was wonderful, and I'm really excited to see what all ends up happening. So, in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'm curious to get more of Askeladd, and I'm curious to see more of our boys in the next episode of Vinland Saga. Bye.